For many years, Buckingham Palace acted like it could not hear anything at all, and now suddenly everything has changed. News from inside the palace revealed that official documents had finally been written. Not rough drafts, not early warnings, not a "we will decide later" message, but final orders. Orders that would forever change the future of two children who never asked to be part of this battle, Archie and Lilibet. According to people familiar with the process, the message inside those papers was incredibly clear. Their right to be called royal is gone. Not postponed, not being reconsidered, gone. And the moment those words were put on paper, the palace's long silence finally made sense. They weren't ignoring anything. They were waiting, calm, patient, and completely confident that the rule book would speak louder than anything Meghan and Harry ever said in public. But to understand why the royal family made such a harsh and final choice, we have to look at a very old book, one written long before Meghan, Harry, or their children were ever born. A rule book that has controlled the royal family line for more than 100 years. The year was 1917. The world was at war, kingdoms were falling apart, and the British royal family was desperately trying to protect itself from confusion, fake claimants, and political danger. So King George V did something no king had done before. He wrote down in official legal language exactly who could be called a prince or princess, not as a story, not as tradition, but as law. His announcement was called the Letters Patent, and it became the foundation of royal identity for every generation that followed. Inside this document were 3 strict rules that every royal child must meet. Rule 1, the child must come from a real royal family line. The royal family wanted to make sure that no one without a clear royal background could enter the line of succession. Rule 2, the child's birth must be officially recognized and recorded by the crown. Not through a press release, not through a private announcement, but by the royal household itself. Rule 3, the child must be connected to the Church of England through an official baptism. This was not optional. It was treated as a legal step in establishing royal identity. These rules were strict, exact, and unchanging. They were created to protect the royal family from exactly what it feared most: confusion. For many years, every single royal birth followed these rules perfectly. No shortcuts, no special cases, no problems. Until Archie was born, and the very first crack appeared in the royal paperwork. Archie's birth in 2019 should have been straightforward. A happy announcement, smiling parents, a new baby welcomed into history. And at first, that is exactly what it looked like. But inside the legal paperwork, inside the one document meant to protect a royal child's identity forever, something strange happened. Archie's birth certificate initially listed his mother the way most legal documents would. Rachel Meghan Markle. Everything normal, everything correct. But later, the document was quietly changed, suddenly and without a clear explanation. Meghan's full legal name was removed and replaced with a single phrase: Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. Now, birth certificates are normally locked. They don't get changed like school assignments or updated like social media posts. They are meant to be permanent. So when this change appeared, it set off warning signals behind palace walls. Meghan claimed the palace forced the change. Palace staff claimed Meghan requested it. Both sides said the other was wrong, and no one ever provided a final agreed-upon answer. But here is what truly mattered to the royal family. A royal birth record had been changed, and once a royal record has doubt attached to it, that doubt becomes a crack. One that spreads, one that grows, and one that eventually leads to everything falling apart. By the time Lilibet was born in 2021, the palace had already learned something powerful. Silence can be louder than any words. Because when her birth came, the world expected a familiar picture. Royal doctors standing by, official announcements from Buckingham Palace, photographers ready to capture the newest member of the royal family. But none of that happened. Instead, the birth of Harry and Meghan's daughter was announced from thousands of miles away, wrapped in a cheerful press release from sunny California. A modern announcement, a friendly message, a picture-perfect statement. But something was missing. Actually, someone was missing. The crown. There was no royal seal, no palace confirmation, no official record, no sign of any official royal witness. And to those who study royal rules closely, this wasn't a small thing. This was a signal, a quiet message sent without a single spoken word. We are not claiming this. For hundreds of years, royal births had been treated almost like historical ceremonies. Every detail mattered. Where the child was born, who delivered them, which doctors signed off, how the crown recorded it. These steps weren't just tradition. They were the royal family's way of saying, this child belongs to our history. But with Lilibet, none of those steps were followed. To the public, it looked like a simple difference. One baby born in the UK, one baby born in America. But to the palace, it was far bigger. A royal child had been introduced to the world without the crown's involvement, making her the first Windsor relative in modern times to enter the world outside the royal record. And inside Buckingham Palace, this was not seen as an accident. It was seen as a departure, a break from the path every royal baby had walked for over 100 years. The quiet rejection had begun. And don't forget, you can stay on top of every development by subscribing to Royal Report Daily for more royal updates. If the birth made people suspicious, what happened next caused real concern. Months later, Meghan shared that Lilibet had been baptized in California. She spoke warmly about the ceremony, the joy, the photos, the meaning. But behind palace walls, the reaction was very different. Because for royal children, a baptism isn't just a family event. It is one of the main requirements set out by the 1917 Letters Patent. It is the moment a child is officially tied to the Church of England, the Crown, and the hundreds of years of tradition behind them. It is a legal marker just as important as a birth certificate. But according to sources familiar with church records, Lilibet's California baptism was never registered with the Church of England. To the couple, it was a beautiful and meaningful celebration. To the royal family, it was a ceremony that on paper did not exist. And in the royal world, this is not a minor issue. This is significant. A child without a recognized Church of England baptism is considered to exist outside the official record. No matter how deeply meaningful the ceremony was to the family, inside palace circles it was seen as an avoidable but permanent mistake. The crown viewed it as a break in the rules, not by the child, but by the parents. And instead of making Lilibet's connection to the royal family stronger, the event did the exact opposite. It left her floating between two worlds, celebrated by her family in America, but unrecognized by the very system she was born into. While these cracks formed quietly, another problem was growing. Something far more personal and far more painful. When Meghan married Harry, she didn't just join a family. She stepped into a worldwide story, a royal story. As the cracks in the royal foundation grew wider around his children, Harry did something no one expected from a prince who had declared he was done with the royal family. He reached back. According to those familiar with the private conversations, Harry made late-night phone calls to the very system he had walked away from. These were not planned calls, not polished media-ready speeches. They were emotional, personal, and desperate. He begged the palace to reconsider. He begged for Archie and Lilibet to be written into the royal record. He begged for the titles he believed his children deserved by blood. To Harry, this wasn't about fame or marketing. This was about legacy. The one thing he believed he could protect even after stepping down. He thought he could leave royal duties behind and still raise royal heirs. But every time he tried to explain, he hit the same immovable wall. A palace official reportedly responded to him with a sentence so cold, so direct, that it stayed with him for months. This is not about emotion. This is about order, family line, and the future of the crown. And for Harry, that was the moment everything changed. Because he realized something heartbreaking. He wasn't just the prince who had stepped away from royal life. He had become the prince whose children were being erased from it. Once the palace made its decision, it moved with remarkable speed. No cameras, no press conferences, no dramatic royal statements, just quiet, steady action, the kind the crown is famous for. According to insiders, the consequences were not gentle, not temporary, and not open to discussion. This was the full list of what Archie and Lilibet reportedly lost. No royal titles, no prince, no princess, no ceremonial roles, no official duties, no public honors, no place in the line of succession, their names removed or blocked from the legal order, no crown-funded security, their protection left entirely to their parents, no permanent place in royal files. The books that outlast centuries no longer include them. In the world of royalty, titles aren't just words. They are keys. They open doors to history. They tie a child to a family line. They guarantee a place in a story bigger than any single individual. Without those keys, a royal child becomes ordinary. And that is exactly what the palace's final orders accomplished. They stripped away everything that connected Archie and Lilibet to the centuries-old Windsor legacy. Not as punishment, not as revenge, but as the strict application of the rules. The royal family had acted, and nothing would ever be the same again. In the end, Buckingham Palace never shouted, never argued, never tried to out-talk the storm of interviews, podcasts, or documentaries. It didn't need to, because the royal family has always understood its greatest power. Silence. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is strategy. Silence is the crown's way of saying everything without saying a single word. For years, the palace watched from a distance, quiet, still, patient. It watched Meghan build her brand as a royal mother. It watched Harry struggle to connect two completely different worlds. It watched the documentaries, the public speeches, and the criticisms of the palace, all without responding. Because the royal family knew something the rest of the world had forgotten. Power is not proven with noise. Power is proven with finality. And when the time came, the crown acted with the cold precision of a system older than empires. It removed titles. It rewrote records. It erased names from history's path with a message that will echo far louder than anything Harry and Meghan have ever said in public. The crown does not bend. Not for personalities, not for celebrity, not for noise or attention. And once the crown chooses to erase your place in its story, you are not a rebel. You are not a threat. You are not even a chapter. You are simply gone. That is the royal family's final message. Chilling, quiet, and permanent.